Oh, hi! Didn't see you there. Hi, my name is YOU WACK. I'm also the guy that brings you top 5 videos that makes you extremely upset, funny moment videos that make you realize that you're better at Overwatch than you really are, and funny cooking videos where I make pee-pee jokes every 5 seconds. Today, we're going to be doing something that we haven't done on this channel before, and something that I haven't personally done since grade school. Read a book! Today's book of choice is the first official Overwatch novel brought to you by Nicky Drayden, the Hero of Numbani. So come, read along with me as we jump into the first Overwatch adventure and we try to keep up at a 2nd grade level reading pace. The Hero of Numbani, Chapter 1. Warm, golden light filtered through the window in Ife's workshop, bringing with it a beam of hope. Hope that this new robot of hers would work this time and not embarrass her in front of her friends again. Ife watched as a 6-legged spider ran across the wooden tabletop. It was made of jet black metal and the most advanced artificial intelligence Ife's ingenuity and allowance could afford. She held her breath as it approached the edge. This robot would revolutionize the world. Ife was sure of it. But right now, it had one big problem. Thump. The robot toppled over the table's edge and hit the ground. Then, as if dazed, it stumbled around, wobbling this way and that. Finally, it seemed as if it corrected its footing and took a few confident steps, right into the side of the unlaced sneaker belonging to Ife's best friend, Nade. Nade frowned and picked up the robot, its legs waving in the air like an agitated crab. Not too smart, is it? He asked. Not yet, Ife said, carefully taking the robot back to her friend, but it's going to be. Everyone's going to want one of these. The Spato process freeware she downloaded had serious bugs in it. Nothing she couldn't fix, of course, but that'd take time, and she already had 150 customers waiting on her orders. From the corner of her workshop, the new sale alert on her laptop chirped. Ife flinched. Make that 150 customers? Don't get her wrong, Ife was truly grateful for all the interest her robot prototype had stirred up on the hologram. 123 likes, and 850 claps, and 332 shares? But somehow, between taking the first order and making the first production unit, she realized that she had gotten in way over her head. As if Ife had big dreams and not enough hands to make those dreams real. She was hoping Nade and Hassana, her best friends since the unfortunate science fair incident a few years back, would volunteer once they saw how revolutionary the robot would be. But her demonstration wasn't going very well. I want one already, said Hassana, a sharp grin on her face. I can't even contain my excitement for owning a 6-legged robot that's awesome at falling off of tables. Huh. Funny, Ife said, setting the robot on the workbench, again herding it away from the edges with her cupped hands. Maybe the robot was clumsy, but she was sure her friends would be impressed by what she had to show them next. Ife pressed the silver button on the bug's back, and a life-size holographic projection of Nade flickered into view. Sitting cross-legged on the table, it blinked at Nade. Whoa, Nade said, examining the hologram from all angles. From the mismatched socks peeking under the pants of his school uniform, to the stew bean stain on the lapel of his shirt, to the scar on his forehead from the battle he had lost, to the no parking sign in front of Kofi Oromo. You're right, everyone's gonna want one of these. Never mind, you can count me out, said Asana. One Nade in my life is plenty. Though, if swapping this one for the other is possible... Nade stuck his tongue out at Hassana. But Hassana pretended not to notice and instead swiped her hand across the projection, dragging her fingers through it like it was holographic finger paint. The image dispatched where she touched it and the pixels reassembled. The Nade hologram turned its head toward her and smiled. Hassana shivered. No one's swapping anyone for anything, Ife said to her best friends. And I'm not building an army of Nades. If that's what you're thinking, it's called a Junie, short for Junior Assistant, designed to serve as a stand-in for social and professional situations. Like if you are unable to make a meeting, you can send your Junie to make a video and report back with a transcript of the events. You mean I could fall asleep during history class and it'd take notes for me? Nade asked, his eyes wide. Ife frowned. It could do that. In fact, Nade sounded a little too enthusiastic about the idea. This is your excuse to goof off in class? Ife said, shaking her head. Nade, Junior, please tell my friend here why it's important that he takes his studies seriously. The hollow image nodded, flickering as it retrieved audio from the voice test that Ife had recorded earlier. Finally, the hollow image opened its mouth to speak, but out came a dying mix of English, Yoruba, Pidgin, French, and maybe Cantonese, its arms flailing all over the place as it spoke. Stop it, Nade, Ife commanded, exasperated, but once she got her wits back, she remembered she was talking to an AI, and not her friend. Nade Jr., Halt processing. The Junie quietly composed itself, then flickered out, leaving nothing but a trail of dust, motes stirring in the air. Yeah, I definitely considered that an improvement on Naday's usual noise, Hasana said, laughing into her fist. But Naday noticed how upset Ify was, and draped an arm over her shoulder. I don't know a lot about programming robots, or AI, but I do know that nobody gets it right on the first try, he said softly. I know, Ify sniffed. She started making robots when most kids her age were still stacking alphabet blocks. Bugs were perfectly normal. She usually expected one or two. What she didn't expect was a completely and total disaster. It's just, I've got all these orders already, and everyone's so excited to get their Junie. I've been spending all my extra time in the workshop trying to get this thing perfected. Well, what can we help with? Asked Hasana, pulling a metal stool up to the work table. You know we've got your back. Ify perked up. She knew they got her back. You don't go through 3 hours of being stuck on the floor of school library due to dysfunctional graviton beam and not come out friends for life. Okay, if you could work on assembling the legs to the chassis, that would be great. Ify pointed out the 2 boxes on the work table, brimming the robot parts. It'll take a little soldering and some circuitry work, but I've got this to help. Ify turned on the huge holographic monitor hanging on her wall and queued up a video. Oh, a movie? Is that starring Kam Kalu? Asked Naday, attempting to mimic the macho, one-raising brow smolder of one of his favorite Nollywood action heroes, and failing miserably. Actually, it's more like an instructional video on cable colors and terminals, and the most efficient way to collaborate. Ify gave her friends a bashful smile. It's probably just easier to watch the video. You sure you don't mind helping? Isn't making robots how everyone spends their Friday night? Naday said, holding up a pair of pigtailed wired connections under his nose like a handlebar mustache. Yeah, and how hard could it be? Hasana said, aiming a smoldering gun at a pile of servo motors and making pew-pew noises. Ify said, wincing. You're holding that the wrong way. She turned the solder gun around and flicked the switch, and a pale blue light beamed out from it. Naday laughed so hard, he nearly fell off his stool. You almost soldered your eyebrows together, he said to Hassan. Just imagine me walking into school on Monday and telling everybody that you pulled an Isaac. So I made a mistake, Hasana said, but how could you compare me to Isaac? Oh, the way he walked around with his palms stuck to his forehead, instant classic. Ify paused the video. What are you two talking about? She asked. Oh, nothing, Hasana said. Just a little incident in the science lab today. Little incident, Naday said, becoming overly animated with his arms flailing about just as Naday Jr. had. At least Ify had gotten her part right. It was only the most stunning, stupendous, ridiculously awesome science lab disaster ever. Naday stuck in a breath as Hasana elbowed him in the ribs. She gave him a stern look, then he straightened up. Yeah, it wasn't anything. You didn't miss much. Ify bit her lip, left out of her school's best in-jokes yet again. Such as her life, she started taking advanced math and science classes her year of elementary school. Halfway through the academic year, she was placed in junior high classes. By the end of the next year, she taught herself algebra and geometry. Now she was taking courses at the senior high school after lunch, which she mostly loved, international baccalaureate instructions in calculus and physics, but she missed out on so much of what was going on in school with Naday and Hasana, and lately, that feeling was growing. Tell me about it, Ify begged. Please? You just had to be there, Ify, Naday said. Sorry I mentioned it. I'll be more careful next time. No, I want to know. It sounds hilarious. Ify stretched a smile across her face the best she could. She didn't want her friends to feel sorry for her. She just wanted to be included. Okay, Naday said reluctantly. Well, you know how Isaac is always trying to impress everyone? Ify laughed loudly. Attention seeker for sure. Naday raised an eyebrow. It's more sad than funny. He tries too hard, but he means well. Anyway, Isaac brought a military-grade barrier into science lab during our discussion on semi-perimeral objects. Where he got such an advanced tech, I don't know. But apparently the barrier's instructions were in Omnicode, and Isaac claimed he could read them. Ify laughed once again, certain that this was the hilarious part of the story. A non-augmented human reading something as complex as Omnicode? Ify had studied the Omnics written language for nearly 3 years, and she couldn't understand more than the occasional word here and there. And she couldn't read the Omnicode, and the chances of Isaac could were slim to none. Ify's laughter morphed into the forced cough, but Naday gave her another blank stare. She put a pensive look back on her face and nodded, okay, Go on. Nade continued. In any case, Isaac ended up activating the barrier around his head and one of his hands, making it look like they were caught inside of a fishbowl. Thankfully, his face was pressed up against the side that let air get through. Ify bit her lip, reluctant to laugh again. Was this it? Was this the punchline? Had Isaac pulled an Isaac yet? She waited so long to respond that Nade shrugged. You really had to be there, he finally relented. Come on, let's watch this instructional video. I still haven't given up on that Cam Kalu is going to be in it. He could act in anything. Spoiler alert, he's not. But I can put on a little music in the background while we work. We work together as one, Ify asked, already dancing to the beat of her favorite Lucio song to shake away the feelings of missing out. You know it, Hasana said, joining in. Ify and Hasana were in a constant competition to prove who was actually the biggest Lucio fan. It mainly played out by one-upping each other as they memorized every possible personal detail and fact about their favorite activist / DJ / hero. For example, Ify knew he wore size 42 skates. She knew his sonic amplifier could hit a target up to 8 meters away. She even knew the exact song that Lucio had played when he led the popular uprising that drove the oppressive Vishgard Corporation out of the first favela, Rejuvenskaya, a song of healing and regrowth. Ify always thought the song was fitting. Although the wounds of the corporation left the community were deep and many, Lucio knew they could heal in time. Hasana's knowledge, on the other hand, seemed to be more trivial in nature, like the depth of Lucio's navel, and the type of floss he used, and his favorite food, payo de gale, little round cheese breads that Hasana liked to prepare on the anniversary of the day she first heard Lucio's music. Nade was no less a fan, though he made a point to stay out of his friend's heated rivalry. Nade and Hasana finished watching the instructional video and got to work. They both were quick learners, so Ify had confidence they'd be able to assemble the first dozen Junies, which gave her the space she needed to work on the bugs and the code. She tucked in her programming interface, a bowl of Lucio O's cereal at her fingertips, as the steady beat of the music playing helped her fall into a trance. Line by line, she fixed the holes in the logic, then ran the Junie motion simulators on her computer. Ify's computer was overdue for an upgrade, but she couldn't afford to pour more time and money into it right this moment, not when there was so much to do. So she waited patiently as the simulation struggled to compile. It took forever. But finally, little wireframe versions of the robots skittered across her screen, avoiding obstacles. The simulation succeeded at skirting the table's edges. Now it was time to upgrade the Junie's firmware and see if it worked in real life as well. Ify looked up from her monitor and noticed the room had gotten darker. It was evening already. Only 4 Junies sat on the workbench, corralled under an overtuned crate. Nade sat at his workstation, an upturned robot sitting in a clamp. He was flipping the servos that controlled the hydraulic legs so they kept time with the song playing. Nade, Ify said, please try to stay on task. I know it's not the most glamorous work to spend the weekend, but our work is important. Sorry, boss, he said, then whispered something to Hasana that Ify couldn't hear, and they both started laughing again. As they worked, Ify's smile began to hurt, but she plastered it on her face anyway to keep her true feelings tampered down. Yes, Ify, Hasana, and Nade were 3 best friends, but there was a sort of unspoken feeling that Nade and Hasana were both Ify's best friends, while Nade and Hasana seemed to tolerate each other at best. Normally, they tease and poke fun at each other, and at worst, there have been a couple of bad arguments. But now, that distance between them were closing, and for every in-joke Ify was left out, she felt more and more alone. Stuck between worlds, the teenagers in her high school classes had in-jokes of their own, ones that completely flew over her head, ones that she had no earthly chance of decoding. Ify, came her mother's voice from the workshop door. She peeked in and saw Nade and Hasana. Oh goodness, hello! I didn't know you were all back here. Good evening, Auntie Fola, said Hasana and Nade, together in the same singing voice, as if they rehearsed it a dozen times together. Ify put us to work, Nade said, raising up a half-assembled Junie. Is that so? Mother asked. She wore a cheerful, bright blue boba and a loose blouse with flower sleeves, paired with candy pink beaded necklaces. Mother loved wearing vibrant colors, and she had plump cheeks and kind eyes that came from doing years of social work within their community. Ify was proud of that work, but it also meant Mother was constantly trying to help Ify solve problems she didn't necessarily want solved. Ify dear, can I have a word? Ify's shoulders slumped. She was about to get the talk again, but she followed her mother out into the hallway anyway. Honey, when I asked you to hang out with your friends more, this isn't what I had in mind. They volunteered for it, Ify said in her own defense. I know, they're good friends, but everything in your life can't center around robots. Why don't you take them out to do something fun? Go-kart racing, or go to the arcade and play some video games, or mini golf. Mini golf, Mama? Well, I don't know what you kids do for fun these days. Then Ify felt even worse. She didn't really know either. She spent all her time in the workshop or studying at school. She hated to admit it, but there wasn't a whole lot of time for fun, at least not in the traditional sense. To Ify, work was fun. She loved inventing, although to most people, including her mother, it looked like she was working herself to the bone. Another round of laughter came from Ify's workshop, and the frown on her face deepened. "What's wrong, dear?" Mother asked. "You look troubled." Ify sighed. "It's Nade and Hasana. Have they been fighting again?" "No, it's worse. They've been getting along." "That's good, isn't it? Normally they're bickering like jackals." Ify shrugged. "I guess I just wish we could go back to the way it was when we were all in the same classes. Relationships can get complicated, but all that means is you're growing up, maturing." Mother drew out the word maturing like she was at a dinner party drinking fancy teas. Like this was a little joke, and not Ify's social life crumbling to bits. Ify knew she couldn't go back to basic math classes, but maybe she could go help her friends catch up on her level. She could build them both a robotic tutor, customized to teach them during every waking hour, or maybe she could talk them into getting cybernetic brain upgrades, just like Sojourn, one of Ify's favorite heroes from the old Overwatch cartoons, based on Overwatch's real-life former captain. "Never mind, Mama. I'll figure it out myself," Ify said. "I know you will. But remember, this isn't something you can logic your way out of. Nade and Hasana are real people with real emotions and real needs." "Yes, Mama," Ify said, but as she crept back into her workshop, seeing all those Junie parts piled up on the table gave her an idea. One that would let her keep in touch with her friends all day long without having to inject bionic neurons into anyone's brain. Her mama huffed, probably sensing that Ify was caught up in her own thoughts again. And contrary to popular belief, you can't solve all your problems with robots. "Yes, Mama," Ify said out loud again, but thought to herself, "Watch me." When Ify rejoined her friends in the workshop, she was giddy with excitement. She took a deep breath, inhaling all the positive energy lingering in the air of her favorite place. This space had been her playroom when she was a toddler, once covered in primary colors and plushy cartoon monsters with big, friendly eyes, but slowly she had dissected her toys, turning talking dolls and light-up electronics into piles of circuitry and actuators and sensors. And once she figured out how they worked, she started building creations of her own. Ify's parents hadn't been too happy at first, seeing all those expensive toys meet their ultimate demise. But one day, they brought home a robotics kit for their inquisitive daughter, and the rest was history. "All right," Ify said to her friends, "let's try this again." Her optimism was infectious, and soon they were all gathered around the workshop table, cheering on the little Junie as it navigated towards the edge, centimeter by centimeter, and just when there wasn't enough space left, it stopped, turned, and moved along the perimeter. It was a small success, but Ify swelled with pride, and once she'd done a little more testing, she uploaded the new firmware to all the bots that assembled. Hasana and Nade packaged them up in their boxes, ready for shipping. "A dozen in one day," Nade said, nodding at the stack of Junie boxes. "That's 12 customers who will soon be very happy." "Make that 10 customers," Ify said. Hasana looked up suddenly. "What? Did you get some cancellations?" "No," Ify said, pulling down 2 boxes from the stack. "But I want you to each have one to take with you to school." "Sweet!" Nade pumped his fist. "Now all I need to do is hide a little pillow in my backpack and no sleeping through class, Nade," Ify cut in. "I was thinking the Junies could follow you around, see what you see, and report back to me. That way, when I go to my high school classes after lunch, I won't miss anything that's going on." Hasana's smile turned slowly downward, and Nade shook his head, probably remembering that fateful day in the school library when Ify had asked for 2 volunteers to help her demonstrate her science fair project. You accidentally overamplify a gravity field one time, and no one ever lets you forget it, Ify thought. She'd had dozens of successful inventions since, and no one had gotten hurt. "Please," Ify asked, "just try it out. Think of it as a test run. Maybe it'll help boost sales too. Come on, what could go wrong?" And that was the first chapter from the book, The Hero of Numbani. If you want to see more videos like this, which you probably don't because I suck at reading, then let me know. But I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch videos to come, and maybe more reading videos to come. Who would have thought I would have been reading on my channel? And bye.